moving on to our next news. This news just came in. Medal of Honor is going to have a Bin Laden hunt or Bin Laden DLC. What they are doing is they are collaborating with Sony Pictures, who is going to make a movie on the Bin Laden special operation or Bin Laden mission, and the movie is called Zero Dark 30, and they are collaborating with them so that they can maybe have a Bin Laden game mode or DLC or something. I'm not really sure about that, but I mean, what I want to ask you guys is, I mean, these issues are a little controversial, and do you think that these kind of issues, like people like Bin Laden, Hitler, and everything, do they have a place in games? What are your thoughts about that, Nova?
Um, Man, there are so many thoughts right now. You bring up Hitler. Now, I have to say, Hitler is really fun to kill. Um, it really never gets old. You know, you kill one of the people who's been involved with, one of the largest genocides ever. I think it's pretty neat. Now, as for Bin Laden, I'm gonna say I love that Medal of Honor Warfighter is going to tie in with the Bin Laden movie, but it's not because of Bin Laden. Let me explain. So, I really like military strategy and military maneuvers. You could call me a military fanboy. I'm not a part of the military, but I've always been kind of interested in it. You know, my parents never let me join. So, uh, I know how those, the SEAL Team 6 was it? I know how they supposedly, landed, killed bin Laden, and got out. That to me seems like a very fun mission or co-op to play. Now, I don't know if they're going to make it a multiplayer map or anything like that, but as a mission, I think it's a really cool idea. And the fact that it really happened only makes it that much cooler. Um, so I give it my stamp of approval.
Teal, what are your thoughts on this?
I, I kind of agree with Nova on this. I think the topic, it being topical, kind of draws you in and makes it a little bit more fun because it's like it's not so fake. It's not just a video game. You're kind of doing what SEAL Team 6 did, and you're taking out the bad guy. That, as an American, it was kind of a woohoo day. I was a little skeptical about it, just for the fact that it's topical for America. That this was, I realize terrorism's around the world, but for America, this was a really big deal. So how's that going to play in other countries? I just don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah, it's sure to cause a controversy.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure in not all, but several European countries in the Middle East, I don't know if they get, I'm sure that somewhere in the Middle East they're playing Battlefield 3, but it's just going to be a big hoopla over it. And I'm sure the trade magazines are going to be saying all kinds of negative things about how could you put this in? It's blah, whatever. Just like they do with any game that has bloodshed in it or shows gore or whatever. There's always some kind of uproar over it. So on the other hand, the thing that I do like about it as an American is that EA is going to be donating a minimum of $1 million to North American vets or American vets from the sale of the DLC. So I think that our veterans deserve it, and it's nice to see them give back. So I'm kind of up on that side. It almost makes me want to go pre-order a game, which I never do.
Oh, I'm actually a little surprised to find you two guys so hyped up about it. I'm a little skeptical about it. The problem is that, and it's just my thinking, is that I like to get away from get away from reality to play games. Games are more of my escape, and if like real controversial issues start making it in games, I kind of do not like that for some reason. Also, sometimes I feel like, I mean, putting Bin Laden in the game is actually giving him more exposure and giving him the type of exposure that he doesn't deserve. But I mean, I see your points. I mean, definitely the $1 million to American veterans. That is an awesome thing. I just hope that the DLC is done tastefully, and it's not like an American scab op guy running with two machetes towards Bin Laden to kill him, and all that thing. I mean, if it's done like dead serious, and if it's close to how they actually perform the mission, I think I would be much more happy rather than seeing some big dramatic scene.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there with the, it's going to be like some Rambo thing. You got the guy with the machetes and all that. I have a sinking feeling that it's going to end the same way that so many of these other games pop in or end. You're going to have they had the scene in Battlefield 3 at the Villa in the campaign where kill him now, and you turn the gun and boom boom and he's dead. I think it's going to be a slow motion bullet time kind of thing. I think that's how it's going to play out. That's just my opinion, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, and if you follow the storyline of how they actually killed him, I mean, it works perfectly for what Teal'c was just talking about. There's definitely a place for that bullet time thing at the end. Personally, I do not like those, but they keep putting them in games. I will say, however, that there's kind of been a trend at tying, I guess, real life and, I guess, quote unquote, real military to video games. You guys remember when Battlefield 3 first came out? If we watched the trailer for the movie Act of Valor, which was based, you could say realistically on Navy SEALs, you got some dog tags to use in Battlefield 3. So I think this is kind of a step up from that. Obviously you're going to be able to play a mission essentially where you enact something that you'll see in the movie. But we've seen that with other video games, like the Harry Potter video games. There are other video games that have been based on movies that tie really closely to the plot and even use some of the same cinematics. So I think that if it is just a DLC, that it'll kind of be like that, and you'll have a couple real clips, you'll have a couple things that you'll have to do. You might be able to, take a different perspective, maybe. I don't know. But I think it could be exciting.
I'm pretty sure in the movie they are going to show everything very tastefully, and if the video game creators take inspiration from that and create their DLC, things would be right. But I mean, if you leave it alone to the video game developers, they might just have a very crazy dramatic scene, which maybe some people might not like. Even some military personnel might not like that. Hey, this is not how our military acts, and this is not how our military does things, and which might not get that kind of positive reception. So I'm hoping that you're right and they take more inspiration from the movie rather than trying to create their own scene, because this scene would be watched. I mean, this scene would be in the mass media. I mean, we can expect this scene to be on the news and everything, because this is a very controversial topic.
Right. So we as gamers want to be viewed in a light, not comedic, but like we have to have respect for Bin Laden. Like, I know that we still have to call him evil because of what he did, but like he had a lot of people behind him who thought that he was the big cheese. So like we can't just take him lightly as a role. He was our enemy and he was a worthy enemy.
Yeah, and I see your point over there. I just wanted to touch upon what I spoke earlier is that do you think that this DLC is giving a personality like Bin Laden undeserved exposure that he shouldn't have?
Well, you get to the fine line between publicity and, I guess, fact sharing or telling the story. So I think that this kind of goes back to whether they're going to do it tastefully or not. If they recreate in the level the scene by scene, play by play of what actually went down, I think they will have given proper respect for the situation and for those involved in the situation. I think that if they let it get out of hand, that it's very likely, if they paint a big cartoony Bin Laden up, with explosives strapped to his chest and surrounded by piles of money and RPGs, then I think that we've possibly, it's kind of with the political satire thing. By putting them in a comic, essentially what you're saying is that we are almost glorifying them beyond a point which they should be glorified. And, I see what you're saying, but I think it all comes down to how appropriate they are in actually designing the level and then the movie as well.
Teal, do you have any comments about that?
I kind of go with Nova on that. I think if it's tastefully done, if it's not cartoony, it's going to be. I mean, he's already been made a martyr. If you go by their logic, he's already been killed. He's boom. He's in heaven with his 72 versions. Whatever. I don't think that we should or we could make him any more in their eyes than we already have. But if we're tasteful about it, well, I mean, the gaming company that puts it out, if they're tasteful about it and they do it right, I don't think it's going to do any more to make him more of a leader in their eyes or anything else. I mean, it's already been splashed all over the news. It's already been splashed all over the internet. So, unless it gets outlandish, I don't see it being nearly as bad as it could be, providing they keep it, like Nova said, tasteful, to the point, done and over with.
Yeah, that's what we are hoping that they will do, because I mean, it's not gonna be a huge controversy, but I mean, we as gamers, like Nova said earlier, are going to look bad in the eyes of mass media if they do something stupid. So let's hope they do everything all right, tastefully, and they actually rely on the movie to lead them rather than they trying to create their own scenarios.